Hey everybody, this is going to be a video all about my celiac disease journey. We are going to cover everything from signs and symptoms from babyhood, childhood, all the way up to my diagnosis and a little bit after. And there is something so wild about my celiac journey. I have to wonder if there's anyone else out there who has experienced what I experienced. Please let me know. More on that in a bit. I'm going to introduce myself and set up some background for a dramatic effect. My name's Janessa. I am a wife of a lobster fisherman, stay-at-home mom of 3 children. We live on a little island in the North Atlantic Ocean. Usually I have gluten-free recipe videos. I do gluten-free sourdough bread, homemaking vlogs, and homesteading vlogs that always include gluten-free cooking. So if that is something that interests you, please hit the subscribe and join that little community. The whole thought behind my YouTube channel was that I feel like I have so much experience with gluten-free. I've been cooking gluten-free now for 15, 16 years. I have kids that are gluten-free that are going through school right now. We've done all the struggles, the school lunches, the parties, all that. So I feel like I have a lot of information that I can give. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. If you see me looking down, it's because I have some notes here. I have ADHD. Notes help keep me on track, and that is actually a fun fact. If you have celiac disease, you're something like 75% more likely to have ADHD. And so far in my life, I have seen that to be true. Let's get started with babyhood. So when I was a baby, I had reoccurring ear infections, and that meant that I was exposed to systemic antibiotic use. And they have found that when that is the case, that baby is more prone to develop celiac disease. That was the first thing that happened in my life that kind of made a turn towards celiac. So when we look into a little bit later on in childhood, some of the only things that I've heard from my mom that would indicate there was anything going on at nighttime when I'd go to sleep, I would complain of a bellyache. And then I did have problems with my bowel movements. And yes, we're going to talk about poop. I feel like that just comes with the territory when you're talking about celiac disease. So many people have GI related symptoms. It's just unavoidable. So if that makes you uncomfortable, this is 100% not the video for you. You should just click away right now. I just remember them being hard and not wanting to be alone during that time because it was a struggle. So next in my young childhood, another sign would be cavities. I was full of cavities all the time, and my brother, my only other sibling, he never had any. My mom brushed our teeth the same amount, and me even more, because I was so prone to cavities. She's paid special attention to my teeth. We brushed them so much, the whole 9 yards, and it does not matter what she did. Every time we went to the dentist, there would be a cavity. And that is also a sign. So if you have kids with cavities, you should probably think about that, especially if there's any history, family history. And we would have never thought that that had anything to do with it, but it does. So other than those, nothing too major popped out until I hit around grade 8. That's when my major GI issues started. And I will never forget these because they were very, very bad. I would have a flare and I'd be at school in grade 8 and, have to use the bathroom so bad, but not want to do that at school. I'd call my mom begging her to take me home. And when I tell you pain, I mean like I was in so much pain, just a stabbing, awful feeling in my stomach. And it was just violent. Like I would be in a sweat. I'd be saying my prayers. And that made my parents take me to the doctor, where I was misdiagnosed with a lactose allergy. Like so many people, I went lactose free, and it did help. Of course, it's going to help. It's going to reduce your inflammation. I did seem a little bit better. So as we go into high school years, that's when I started experiencing different symptoms. I actually started seeing rashes on my skin, which we just chalked it up to eczema, but we know now it was not eczema. It was dermatitis herpetiformis, which is the celiac skin rash that you get. So I had 2 patches of this on each of my knees, and they're like a white scaly, extremely itchy, very, very itchy rash. One of those itches that like once you start, you cannot stop. And I would itch so bad that I would draw blood. And then one of the only other symptoms that I had that started in high school was I had some pretty bad bloating. I was in the best shape of my life. Like I said, I was playing soccer, basketball, volleyball, rugby, all the things. And I still had this little bloated belly and it was so embarrassing. I still remember, I think it was in grade 9, bringing my friends pictures of the Dominican Republic and they were all looking at them in a big circle, and I overheard one of the girls say, "She's not even that skinny." And from that point on, the view of myself wasn't as good. I was always self-conscious. That was crappy. So anyways, we move on and we graduate high school. Everything's fine. Still have the skin rashes, the random GI flares every once in a while, but everything was pretty manageable. And the next thing that popped out that of course at the time had no idea was related was I started experiencing anxiety. So the first time I experienced it, I had a full-blown panic attack. Of course, like when people say, "Oh, I had a panic attack," like they're probably not talking about an actual panic attack. If you've ever had like a real one, like it is like the world is ending. It is so scary. It is so real. Like I just remember just being so terrified. My whole body was shaking. I didn't understand what was going on and it was really scary. So I did end up going to the doctor and telling her at the time that, I had a panic attack, like it was awful, blah, blah, blah. This keeps happening. What's going on? And my doctor looked at me and said, "You didn't have a panic attack. You were just scared." That was the last time that I ever saw that doctor. So I ended up getting through most of the anxiety. It was always present, but I learned how to manage it in my own way. Yeah, celiac disease is linked to anxiety. If you have celiac disease, you are much more likely to experience that, unfortunately. Right around the same time, I got diagnosed with IBS, which also I think so many people with celiac disease are diagnosed with wrongfully. They offered me meds. I wasn't convinced that that was it, so I didn't take the meds and I just kept powering through life. And then we come to age 23 when I started having babies. Now with my first baby, the only major issue was the anxiety. After I had the baby, I had pretty bad postpartum anxiety, which definitely sucked. Again, I was kind of ruined. I didn't want to go to the doctor because of my experience with the last doctor and what she had said about my anxiety. So again, I just dealt with it, powered through, and it did eventually go away. But don't do what I did. If you have postpartum anxiety, please get help. I should probably say this. I am not a medical professional in any way, so please do not take anything that I say as medical advice. Always talk to your doctor and yeah, do what you gotta do. So when I got pregnant the second time, I was actually diagnosed with gestational diabetes. So after that, the diet to kind of manage that, it takes out a lot of the gluten foods. So I was feeling really good. I wasn't eating as much gluten. I was on a low sugar diet. My inflammation was going down and I was feeling really, really good. And even in pregnancy in general, if you have an autoimmune disease, you usually do experience a lot less symptoms during that time because your immune system is lowered anyways. And I think that you'd hear a lot of people kind of say that about different autoimmune diseases, not just celiac disease. Of course, after I had the baby, I started consuming whatever I wanted, all the gluten, bagels and bread and pizza, all the things. And I started feeling like crap. I remember saying to people, my family, that something hurts in my stomach, like something doesn't feel right. I just feel like rotten on the inside. And I didn't know what it was. And I kept experiencing it in waves. And then 2020 rolled along and we all know what happened there. It was scary to go to the hospital and I was experiencing all these stomach issues in waves. But then one time I experienced a really bad weight and it like put me out. Like I was in my bed all day just trying to sleep to not feel the pain and it would exhaust me. I tried to get in the tub to make it stop and it was just absolutely awful. Anytime I ate anything, I would feel like that. So I wasn't eating. In the few months to follow, the only thing that I could tolerate was plain oatmeal, like no milk, no brown sugar, nothing. Only other thing that I could eat was sweet potatoes. So I was literally living off of oatmeal and sweet potatoes every single day. I ended up dropping 25 pounds in 2 months. I am not a big person, so 25 pounds was significant. Mind you, I still had a little bit of baby weight on me, so it wasn't like I was skin and bones, but I was skinny. So when I brought that to my doctor, they were like, all right, like something's going on, we better figure it out. Well, in the meantime, they put me on antacids. I don't know if they helped or not, but they did end up sending me to a gastroenterologist. Took a little bit to get in, and while I was waiting to get into that gastro, I maintained my oatmeal and sweet potato diet, and I think it did help me heal in the long run because eventually I was able to put a few things back in my diet. So fast forward to the gastroenterologist, and she did an endoscopy. So that's when they go put you under, they go down your throat with a camera, and they take a look at what's going on. So I got that done. My primary care doctor got the results first, talked to him. He said, oh no, everything's normal, everything looks good, which was so frustrating. I was like, I kind of like forgot about it. And then 2 weeks later, I actually got a call from the gastroenterologist. So I thought it was just like a follow-up, didn't expect anything crazy to happen. I get on the phone with her and she's like, yeah, so we saw like your typical signs of celiac disease. Your villi are dying and folded over. That's the word she said, like kind of flopped over like they were dying. They're like the little finger-like things in your intestine and GI tract that help push food along. And they also have receptors all over them, which is where vitamins and minerals and whatnot like attach and they get absorbed. So they were dying, and she said, yeah, that is stereotypical celiac disease. You have celiac disease. And this is where the crazy thing happened. I was like, what? There is no way that I have celiac disease because my husband also had celiac disease. So what are the chances that the guy that I end up with has the same autoimmune disease as me? Like, has that ever happened to anyone? Have you ever heard anyone else that has happened to? What are the chances? See, that's why I'm like, there has to be like such a low percentage. So obviously this was kind of helpful because I had already been cooking gluten-free for him for years, for about 11 years at that point. So I knew what I was doing. I knew my whole way around the gluten-free atmosphere at that point. That was great. However, not such a good thing for my children because, as you know, probably know, celiac disease is hereditary. So when you have a parent with it, that could be passed down to your children. So, you know, it had to come from somewhere, so you should get your parents to check themselves out. So my mom and dad went to get blood tests. Dad's came back completely fine, and my mother's came back not. So she got diagnosed with celiac disease too. And it's funny because my mom's symptoms were like completely different than mine, and that's just the thing about celiac disease. It is so hard to diagnose and to pinpoint because the symptoms are so broad. Everyone experiences it in such a different way. Yes, I have 3 kids, like I said. So far, 2 of them are gluten-free. I could do a video on them and what they were experiencing at the time if that interests anyone, so please let me know if that does. That is my story. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you like gluten-free content, homemaking that always have gluten-free recipes in there, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh my gosh, my legs are so numb. I cannot feel my feet. Oh my gosh. My feet are gonna tickle so bad. Oh.